Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I know history, or do I? So, you all know me from my other channel, Red True Crime, but I also have a fascination with history. And I also like to talk about things that people think they know the ins and outs of, but turns out they really don't. So, we are going to talk about that. So, the very first topic, well, actually, not the very first topic because I've done a few of these videos already, but tonight we're going to talk about Lady Godiva, the naked truth behind the legend, fact or fiction. As I like to call her, the original protester. So, sit back and we'll be right back. Well, hey everyone, welcome back to I Know History, or Do I? The channel where we dig into the stories everyone thinks they know and then question everything. So today we are tackling one of the most famous tales in British history, Lady Godiva. You know the one, with the noblewoman who rides naked through the Coventry on a horse to save the townspeople from crushing taxes, long hair covering just enough. One creepy guy peeks and gets blinded, classic medieval drama, right? Yeah, because this is also where the term peeping Tom originated from as well. But here's the question that keeps historians up at night. Did any of that actually happen? Or is the whole thing a giant medieval tall tale? So, I mean, she has a statue, you know. So stick around and we're going to separate what's real history and from the spicy legend. And by the end, you'll know who the real Lady Godiva was and why the naked ride probably never happened and how this myth became one of England's most enduring stories. So first things first, Lady Godiva was 100% a real person. So let's go ahead and just knock that out right now. She did in fact exist. Her actual name in Old English was Godgifu. I'm sure I'm saying that incorrectly, meaning gift of God. Now, that got Latinized to Godiva over time. Yeah, you gotta love the Romans and stuff. So she was an Anglo-Saxon noblewoman, born sometime around the late 990s to early 1000s, and she married Leofric, the powerful Earl of Mercia, and he was one of the biggest landowners in England under kings like Canute and Edward the Confessor. So Leofric was a big deal. He was a military leader, political player, and yes, you could say he was pretty tough on taxes. Together, they had at least one son, Elfgar, whose daughter actually married the last Anglo-Saxon king, Harold Godwinson, and he's the guy who lost Hastings in 1066. So, what makes Godiva stand out? I mean, people are like, "Oh, Godiva, like chocolate." Like, no, she didn't own any chocolate. But what makes her stand out is that she was independently wealthy. Anglo-Saxon women of her class could own land in their own right. And Godiva held massive estates across Warwickshire, Leicestershire, and more, including Coventry itself. So, where is the ultimate proof that she's real? The Doomsday Book. It's the massive land survey William the Conqueror ordered in 1086. Godiva is listed there as one of the few Anglo-Saxons and the only major female landowner who still held significant property right after the Norman conquest. And which it was rare because most Anglo-Saxon elites lost everything during the Norman conquest. So, but she was also deeply religious. So in 1043, she and Leofric founded and lavishly endowed a Benedictine monastery in Coventry, pouring in gold, silver, jewels, lands. Chroniclers like Florence of Worcester praise them as pious benefactors. And Godiva even had her own treasures melted down to make religious artifacts. Now, Leofric died in 1057 and was buried in their monastery. Godiva outlived him by a good 10 years, dying sometime between like 1066 and 1086. She was likely buried there too, though they cannot find definitive proof of her grave, which is kind of weird. So let's get into this legend, or at least what everyone thinks happened. So, there you go. So the part you've heard around 1057, Leofric slaps heavy taxes on Coventry's people. Godiva begs him to ease up over and over. Finally, fed up, he says something like, "Fine, I'll reduce them if you ride naked through the marketplace on market day." He thinks she'll back down. She doesn't. She tells the town folk to stay inside, shut their windows. Then she mounts her horse, naked, covered only by her long flowing hair, and rides through the streets. Now everyone averts their eyes out of respect, except for one guy, later called Peeping Tom, who peeks and gets struck blind or dead, depending on which version you look at. But Leofric keeps his word, lifts the taxes, except maybe on horses, and it's heroic, right? I mean, like, power to the people, like the first protester, like, I am going to ride naked through the streets protesting these taxes. So, um, yeah, it's crazy. So it's been painted, it's been sculpted, and turned into poems. Um, Alfred Lord Tennyson wrote one in 1840. Songs even inspired the Godiva chocolate brand, and Coventry still celebrates her with festivals and a famous clock where a mechanical Godiva rides out on the hour, which is kind of cool. So let's get to the part where it starts falling apart. The naked ride. Zero mention in any contemporary source. Florence of Worcester, writing around 1118, just decades after her death, praises Godiva and Leofric's piety and donations, but says nothing about a naked protest. Now, John of Worcester, around 1140, does the same, no ride. The first written version pops up in the 13th century, over 150 to 200 years later, in Roger of Windover's Flores Historianum. He claims Leofric challenged her. She rode naked. Townspeople stayed inside. Later, chroniclers like Ranulph Higden and add details. Now, the peeping Tom part doesn't show up till the 17th century, 600 years later. So, why the huge gap? If a high-born countess rode naked through a town in the 11th century, it would have been scandalous, and it would have been recorded. Chroniclers love juicy stories, and silence from the time period is deafening. So, plus Coventry wasn't even a big town. Yet in the mid 11th century, the monastery they founded in 1043 helped it grow, but market day crowds, very doubtful. Taxes, Godiva herself was a major landowner, so she could have influenced or even imposed some herself. So, historians think the legend might come from folk tales in other English towns, like naked rides for tax relief elsewhere, or even later propaganda to mock or romanticize her piety. But the bottom line is the real Godiva was a devout, powerful philanthropist. The naked ride, almost certainly a myth that grew over centuries, like a medieval game of telephone. So, I mean, we got the statues, we got paintings, we've got chocolate. So why does the legend live on? It turns a pious noblewoman into a symbol of compassion, defiance against unfair taxes, and even early feminism, using her body to challenge power. So it's been reimagined in art. Those Victorian paintings are really something. And literature and music. Peter and Gordon's 1966 song "Queen's Don't Stop Me Now" reference. Coventry embraces it, and the annual Godiva Festival statues and the clock tower. So it shows how history and myth blend. Real people inspire stories that evolve into something bigger than facts. So, Lady Godiva, real woman, yes. Naked horseback hero, probably not. But the legend is a reminder that history isn't just dates, it's the stories we tell about the past and how they shape who we are today. So, what do you think? Does the myth make her cooler or does the real history win? And drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this myth buster, smash that like button and subscribe for more. I know history, or do I? deep dives, and hit the bell so you never miss the next one. And next time, I'm not sure what I'll cover next time, but I'm sure it'll be interesting. So thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.